Hello. Today we're going to be learning about the flipped classroom, and we're going to do that by experiencing the kind of videos your students may end up watching if you decide to flip your classroom. To create this video, I've just put together a slideshow using Prezi, which is an online slideshow program, and I've recorded my voice talking over it using a piece of software called Camtasia for Mac. So let's begin. The current movement that's referred to as flipped learning was introduced by these two chemistry teachers, Aaron Sams and John Bergman, who were teaching chemistry in rural America. Because many of their students missed lessons, they decided to record the lessons so that the students could watch these on video and catch up on any work missed. One day, a student said to them, "I'm so glad that you record your videos because it means I don't have to go to class anymore." So this got them thinking. What was the best use of class time when students could get the information quite easily at home on the internet? You see, in the traditional model, students come to class for knowledge acquisition. Traditionally, the teacher spends the majority of the lesson delivering new content to the students, and then the students go away and practice this work, make connections with that knowledge, and apply that knowledge in their own time as homework. The problem with this is that really what we're doing is we're sending kids home to do the hard stuff by themselves. Where students often need the teacher to assist them is in the making of the connections and the applying of that knowledge. And so what often happens, if students are particularly frustrated, they just give up and don't do the homework at all. So what John Bergman and Aaron Sams came up with is something called a flip model. Instead of in class being where the students get the content, the knowledge acquisition is done at home. And the use of that knowledge, what's called knowledge construction, is what's done in class time. So students access the content before the lesson, and this lets more time in class be used for deeper learning and those more challenging activities where they're applying that knowledge. You've probably seen a diagram that looks a bit like this before. This, of course, is the updated Bloom's taxonomy. In the traditional method of delivering content in class, the majority of class time is used for what Bloom's says are the lower order thinking skills: the content delivery, remembering information, and acquiring a basic understanding of that information. With that traditional method, these higher order skills that Bloom describes as analysing and evaluating and creating the information, that's what's sent home. In a flip model, we turn that upside down. The majority of class time is used for analysis, it's used for evaluation, and that lower order skills, as Bloom calls them, of remembering skills and basic comprehension, that's done at home beforehand. So where does the research sit with all this? The graph you're looking at here is from some research that was done in 2014 in the US. 2 million data points were accessed to come up with this information. And what it's showing, as you can see, is that the majority of class time is still being used either to present new content to students or to give them an opportunity to practice that content. So you might think in, say, a mathematics lesson, they learn a new concept, they spend a bit of time doing the activities. What you can see here is that only 6% of class time is spent doing what is described as complex tasks involving generating and testing hypotheses. What we might be looking at here in, say, English or history is your essay writing. in something like science, it's making the connections between the content that is often left to be done at home, with, as you can see, very little time given to this in class. So it does come back to our question, what's the best use of class time? Well, let's see how class time is used in a flipped lesson. So in a flipped lesson, as we said, the student gets the content before class. So students prepare for the lesson by doing set homework. This could be watching a video that the teacher has either created themselves or gathered from elsewhere. It could involve listening to a podcast, reading an article, whatever is appropriate for that lesson and appropriate for that subject. Then, in class, the teacher has to find a way of ensuring that the students have accessed that content and understood it. There are many different ways a teacher can do this. There are programs you can use online where you can provide tests to see if the students have understood the content, or you can use a formative assessment tool in your lesson. We'll look at quite a few of these examples later. Once any misconceptions have been cleared up, then the majority of class time can be devoted to applying the learning the students have acquired at home. What could this look like in your classroom? It could mean more time for debates and discussions. It could mean more time for collaboration, for project-based learning, for critical thinking skills, creativity, any of those things that we know are good for student engagement and that have positive learning outcomes, but that we sometimes feel like we don't really have time to do well in class. So here is our little introduction to the flipped classroom completed. We're now going to spend a bit of time discussing these ideas and doing some activities.